Hey up YouTube, what's going on? AmazingChi here, bringing you your NPA Week 3 recap. Now, as you can probably tell already, there's something a little bit different about this week. It's not the fact I'm just doing the intro this week, it's the fact that Juan isn't here at all, I'm afraid. Juan had a sort of fairly busy first couple of days in this week and didn't really manage to get much of the matches watched. But more importantly, we didn't really get time to find a window to record together, I'm afraid. And then obviously Juan's also off to PAX this weekend. So if you're off to PAX, you might be able to meet your NPA analyst. But sadly for now that means I cannot record with him because sort of our window to record was last night and just his work overran and things like that. So we didn't really get that small window opportunity that we did have the ability to record in. Also my internet provider has decided to do maintenance this morning, so I'm actually currently recording this offline. So I couldn't manage to reorganize with anyone else, and I didn't want to be messing people around in case the internet didn't come back up in time for the whatever we planned. So this one is going to be flying solo, I'm afraid. Just because I didn't want to be messing other analysts or other anyone who wanted to record with me around. Just because I don't actually know what time this internet's coming back up, so I don't know what time this video is going up, frankly, either. I'm hoping it's still going to be up Wednesday at some point, but I'm hoping it's only a one-day maintenance thing. Otherwise, we all know how badly we miss the internet when we don't have it. So yeah, hopefully this should still be up on Wednesday at some point this afternoon, evening, sometime. So yeah, sorry for being a bit day late. We've had a bit of an issue with scheduling and things like that. So yeah, and it's just me for this week. So there are some coaches that have not been watched at all. Juan has sent me the notes on the matches he did watch, and I have gone and watched a few that I had questions for that Juan would have been able to answer had he had the time to watch all of them. So I've gone and watched the opposite side of some of the matches as well. So I have watched some of them from both sides, and I do have notes for the majority of coaches. There are some coaches where I didn't really feel like there were any real questions for the other side, basically, so I didn't really feel the need to watch that side, just because it's already kind of day late. We like to get these up on Tuesday normally, so yeah. So in the interest of speed and time and getting these up, well, let's get on with it, shall we? So the first match this week was between Radioactive and Volskala of the Iowa Horloges and the Duke City Dewblades, respectively. Now this ended up as a 3-0 for the Iowa Horloges, and to be honest, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to see Brady get a win at last, because he had a rough first 2 weeks, to be honest. But no, it's nice to see him get a win on his belt. Unfortunately, that does mean the Duke City Dewblades have gone 3 weeks without a win. One team here was going to be breaking that losing streak and not going to be going 0-12 for the season, no matter what happened. But in this case, it was Brady that took the win here, his first win of the season. So that's it's nice to. I watch him I've watched him on Twitch and things. So I'm glad he's got a win. But commiserations, of course, to Volskala there. Hopefully you'll pick up your first win soon as well. But yes. The first turn, this is one thing I'm glad for Juan. Juan gave me the note is that the Heatran was misgenned. Now, I'm going to start with this point because I feel like this is the point that we need to make first and foremost. We've said it in the past 2 weeks. Check your mons. Check your goddamn mons. But yeah, I'm not gonna say that again because we've said it time and time again. Just check your damn mons and just do that. But on the other hand, Z Move Register was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And of course, the Magnus Storm did miss, which was unfortunate. But it wouldn't. I don't feel like it probably would have killed the Register because Register is quite bulky. So I feel like the Z Move Register was going to get off no matter what happened there. So it was beautiful to watch. And Brady, that thing you put on the end, the little clip we put on the end was majestic. Yeah, poor old Heatran, Z-Move Registeel just completely obliterating that off the bat. So turn 1, that was a big scalp. I mean, to be fair, when you've got a sort of typically water-orientated team, Heatran isn't the most difficult thing to deal with, but it was still kind of fun to watch no matter what anyway. So as I've written here, I only have 1 point against Brady really, and that's bringing Bruxus in on Slowbro. Because he was obviously then just going to switch in Skuntank no matter what. So maybe that's just maybe a little bit of inexperience, I don't know. because when you do have a pursuit trapper on the opposite side, you've got to be really careful of bringing in particularly frailish psychic type mons. So I'm not really sure. Oh, you're aiming for the crunch, and in fairness, you didn't really have on the team that you brought. You didn't really have a lot else. You did have the Thunder Eye, which potentially would have been a slightly better switch in that case. But I think you were trying to sponge the water move at that time anyway. So yeah, Broxis could have sponged the water move, but if you were trying to sponge what would have been a Scold, let's face it, then you don't want Broxis to be burned either. So Thunder Eye isn't the bulkiest of mons, but it's not the frailest of mons either, and it doesn't mind being skull burned because it is specially orientated. So that probably would have been your better switch in there, to be honest. But other than that, can't really see much wrong with it, because obviously bringing the Broxis on the Slowbro and then not immediately switching it out, predicting the Skuntank coming in, because that's like 99% of the time you're going to bring your Pursuit Trapper in on a Psychic type, pretty much. So yeah, the only other points I have on the other side, but all the other points I have pretty much are on the other side of things, on the Doublade side of things. There was no point sucker punching the Goluk because Skuntank outspeeds anyway, so the Pursuit would have been the better play in case he switches out, which is what actually did happen. So there was absolutely no need to click Sucker Punch because you outspeed the damn Goluk anyway, so even if it attacked, the Pursuit would have been enough to kill it. And he switched out, and you would have got the kill on the Goluk if you just clicked Pursuit there as well. So you would have had 2 Pursuit kills there, which was actually a little bit... It was kind of his only play as such, because you were going to get outsped by the Pursuit anyway, so switching out was his only play at that point, because he would have just died to any sort of dark move, even if he had a normal dark move like a Night Slash or whatever normal dark moves that Skuntank gets that aren't Pursuit on Sucker Punch. He was just going to die to any of those anyway, so there was no reason for Goluk to stay in at that point. Or if he did, he would just be sacking it off. So clicking Pursuit was your best play there. But, you know, and then Goluk got to stick around a little bit longer. Can't remember if it actually survived the entire match in the end. I think it did, yeah. So it kept up his differential, because I don't think the Goluk came back in again at any point after that. So it kept up his differential, so it didn't really make a much difference to the match as a whole, but it would have got one more kill on your side. And yeah, it's really unfortunate the 2 things you kind of brought was stabs. Yeah, the 2 things that I brought that were stab super effective against Goluk were also weak to Goluk, because just that weird sort of matchup situation. Because Goluk being Ghost and Ground, the Ghost is super effective against Slowbro Psychic but weak to the water, and the Ground is super effective to Skuntank's Poison and then weak to the Dark, and the Ghost is weak to the Dark. So you're kind of in that weird situation where your 2 monsters that kind of take on Goluk the best are also weak to Goluk. So kind of one of those awkward situations. But yeah, so it kind of left you in a situation where you're just using Star Raptor to get a lot of damage on Goluk, and like in fairness, in the team that was brought, Star Raptor didn't have the greatest of matchups, because if it wasn't Scarfed, which I think it was Scarfed, but if it wasn't, then it does get outsped by Nihilego and Delphox if they're fastest. It gets outsped by Thunderous as well, of course. But Delphox is the only thing vague, like Delphox, Broxis, and Goluk are the only things that were sort of vaguely susceptible to Star Raptor this week, because Nihilego resists, although it is weak on the defensive side anyway, so it might have been alright. Registeel resists, and doesn't really care too much about close combat from Star Raptor. It probably might be just a 2-hit KO, I'm not sure, because it's not stab fighting, it should be alright if it's defensive build. I'm not 100% certain, I haven't done the counts for that. And obviously Thunderous can switch in on the... Well, Thunderous can switch in, but it's also, you know, electric type, so it threatens it back. So Star Raptor didn't have the greatest match of this week, so maybe just using it to get damage on Goluk was fine, but it probably would have been better off saving it rather than using it for that purpose and just bringing Skuntank in straight away and Sucker Punching, because that would have killed maybe from full. And that would have been the time for you to click Sucker Punch, because then Goluk probably wouldn't have killed from Pursuit wouldn't kill Goluk from full, but from the damage that Star Raptor did to the Goluk, Pursuit would have killed from there, as happened. Yeah, could have U-turned into Skuntank and then threatened it out, or even Slowbro, since to be fair, Slowbro does kind of threaten Golok out a little bit as well, because Golok's Ghost Stab isn't the greatest, and Slowbro is, bulky. So Shadow Punch isn't doing the most amount of damage. It might still be a 2-hit KO if it's the Iron Fist variant with Expert Belt or something like that. It might still be enough, or Ghost Plate. It might still be enough to 2-hit KO, but it is only base 60, that Shadow Punch, so it doesn't have the greatest of Ghost moves. And yeah, the only other thing with Brady is he did mention at the end that he probably could have saved a little bit more differential, and from what I can tell, there was, probably could have kept Delphox alive, but for the sake of 1 differential over guaranteeing your first win of the season, it's not worth it. And it's a 3-0 anyway, which isn't, it's a 3-0 is pretty good anyway, so the difference between a 3-0 and a 4-0 at this point in the season, not really worth messing around and risking your guaranteed win. So yeah, good work, Brady, and hope you keep up the win, and good luck for the Doublés to get their first win of the season next week, maybe. So I don't know what your matchup is, to be honest, though. But I don't like anyone going 0-12, because that was kind of me for a while in PPL Season 2. So I know your pain. The only win I did get was against my co-host. But yeah, Juan's notes here, just nothing really, anything I didn't already say. So yeah, all talking about the should have pursued instead of sucker punch is basically his only other main note. So yeah, moving on. Next up is the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Los Angeles Landers, coached by John, aka Pokemon, and Jerry Oak, respectively. This ended up as a 5-0, which is kind of a statement, because as of this point in the season, as of week 2, Jerry Oak and the Los Angeles Landers were 2-0 and +9, I believe, which was the highest ratio, highest differential of anyone in the entire league. So at this point, the Landers had the best record in the entire league, and John just 5-0'd him. So, and that's not saying that Jerry played bad this match. Jerry played perfectly fine this match. There was nothing really wrong with Jerry's play, in my opinion. The only question mark I had is the same question mark that Juan has, pretty much, and that is, why in God's name was Uxie you're switching to Decidueye? Because Uxie, Psychic, Decidueye, Ghost. Neither of us are quite sure, and I did ask Juan, and Juan did watch this match, so and there wasn't really anything explaining it in your commentary, from what I can tell from Juan's notes. There was no actual other explanation other than it can take it, from what I can tell. So yeah, maybe it can take it, but then you're trapped against a Ghost type, which isn't great. You can U-turn out, of course, which is what happened, but that was unnecessary damage. I'm just trying to see what was on your team that could have taken it a bit better. Nothing really, to be fair. There was nothing on your team that could have taken it better. So maybe bringing... I don't know if you have a normal type on your team or a dark type, but both of those would have been better if you had brought them. In fact, as happened, I think Aggron really didn't really have the greatest matchup in terms of what was brought. But might have been better up against things that John didn't bring, which I can't see right now. But yeah, Juan says good awareness on terrain here, which I can only assume means Jerry was aware that certain things can't be status in misty terrain. I'm gonna hazard a guess at not sporing with a Moongus whilst misty terrain was up. So I'm guessing that's what that plus point there is from Juan. Everything else is sort of fairly standard. John's rust is clearly very much gone. He's very much back in the game, very much in Gen 7 league format now. 5-0ing the league leader at this point is, very much a statement from John. Like I said, Jerry didn't play bad, except for the Uxie switch-ins maybe. But John just had a plan and he executed it. But it is worth noting that Victini waking up when it did was absolutely crucial, because Amoongus did get the spore off on Victini, but then Victini did wake up on the one turn it absolutely needed to wake up, otherwise it may not have gone as easily for John. But yeah, after that Victini woke up, everything was fine. The Decidueye set was beautiful, trapping in that Amoongus when it did, and then setting up on the Amoongus with Roost and Swords Dance, so keeping it a good amount of health whilst setting up, and then just Brave Birding it. So Decidueye only had Spirit Shackle and Brave Bird that week. It didn't actually have Grass Stab, which it didn't need in fairness, because Starmie Like Samurott maybe, but Samurott is a sort of a fringe pick anyway, so that's not really necessary to get the coverage on, especially when you have Raikou in your back pocket as well. So, but yeah, Starmie was weak to the Ghost move as well, so it wasn't 100% necessary to have that Grass move. So using the Brave Bird to trap the Amoonguss and kill the Amoonguss with, brilliant. Well, using Spirit Shackle and Brave Bird to trap and kill the Amoonguss is brilliant, because Amoonguss is annoying. I had it last season in the PPL, and I know how frustrating it can be for opponents. But yeah, I love that thing, and I can understand why getting rid of it was absolutely crucial, because it's made life a lot easier in general. Because he didn't bring a ground type as well, so Amoonguss was his only real electric switch-in. Because like Tapu Koko exists, but Tapu Koko doesn't like to take hits, especially when it was a Life Orb Tapu Koko, I believe. So yeah, Raikou kind of had a little bit more free reign after Amoonguss. Raikou didn't actually end up with any kills, but yeah, had a little bit more free reign once the Amoonguss went down. But yeah, kind of yeah. But the decision I said was perfect. The Spirit Shackle trapping it in, the setup with Swords Dance and keeping it alive with Roost, and then Brave Birding the Amoonguss down, and then having the Archie Berry as the item to take in the then what was going to be the Revenging Starmie with Ice Beam. Bam. Took that out as well. So that was beautiful. Taking out one of the more defensive threats and taking one out, probably, you never know which way Starmie's going to go, but one of the more offensive threats as well in Starmie. Was just brilliant play on John's part there, and yeah, definitely the rust has gone. Very good game to watch. Like, it doesn't, kind of one of those matches that doesn't feel like it's a 5-0 until it's over, but then you realise, oh wow, that actually was a 5-0, and you kind of realise how I don't want to say sort of one-sided it was, because it wasn't one-sided at all. It just sort of suddenly became one-sided at later in the match, and then bam, it's done. Kind of a little the way that I think it was it week 2 versus John? I think it was week 2 versus John. The same way that he kind of went down 5-0 last week, I think it was. Let me just find it. 3-0. Yeah, it kind of just suddenly the match just suddenly switched, and Thunderous got all the kills last week, and it was a 3-0. It didn't really feel like a 3-0. It felt more like a 1-0 match, but you know, same way this week. Just John pulled the trigger at the right moment and got the 5-0 because of it. So yeah, good match, great watch again. John's matches this season so far have all been fantastic watches. So if you're not following John at this point, make sure you're definitely following John, because he seems to be getting all the good matches at the very least. Not that any match is particularly bad. I don't think there's actually really any sort of, not been any poor matches in the entire thing, but yeah, it's an exceptional matches. Every single one of John's matches has been exceptional so far in terms of just viewer watching. But yeah, moving on. We have what is potentially, in my opinion, the game of the week. The Chicago Cub Juniors Galactic Elliot versus the Luster City Pokemon Club and T-Train. And this was a 104 T-Train. So the Mega Metagross Clefable Salamence team finally goes down. I say finally, it's only week 3, but doesn't go undefeated. And this was obviously a surprise to many, because everyone, as soon as you see the Mega Metagross team, just backs that in the thingy. But a couple of people did back T-Train here. I wanted to, but I just can't. I can't really back again. I can't back anything other than Mega Metagross, to be honest. So yeah, Elliot did have the early momentum, as it felt like he didn't really know what to do with the Electros. Just kept switching in other various things in on it, and I did watch T-Train. This is one of the matches, one of the ones I did watch the other side for. Wasn't really aware of all the coverage that Electros got, which isn't the greatest thing to be doing, but didn't realise he got Giga Drain and things like that. But yeah, didn't really seem to know what to do with the Eel early on, and then of course managed to manoeuvre himself into a position where it was Seismitoad versus Superior, which means free Leaf Storm. Basically, anytime you get Superior up against something like Seismitoad, it's just a free Leaf Storm against something. And that forced Arcanine in. Now, Arcanine coming in intimidates, but contrary, boosts the +1. So he now sat there with a +1 attack, +2 special attack Superior, which is dangerous, but of course he's still got Arcanine in, so if you're feeling safe, Arcanine doesn't naturally outspeed, but it probably could take another it probably could take a +2 Leaf Storm at the range it's at. But it can't take a +1 Hydro Vortex. Oh my god, Z move Aquatail. Z Aquatail there. Hydro Vortex. So that's +1 Hydro Vortex. Just obliterates any version of Arcanine, especially one that's only about 60-70% health at that point. So yeah, that was majestic to watch and brilliant. Removing that Arcanine from the battle just sort of straight away. Arcanine's Intimidate probably wasn't the most... Like, the Arcanine's Intimidate wasn't the most dangerous thing there. And in terms of its matchup, it only really threatened the Superior and what he brought. But it was still fun to watch, of course. Yeah, so it only really threatened the Superior itself, the Arcanine. But removing Arcanine does remove one of the checks for Superior. And allows Superior to, every time it come in, basically get another free kill. Get a free +2 Leaf Storm off or something. And essentially almost a free kill on it, basically, anyway. So that was good, good planning, good prep, great work there. Electros came back in at some point, and this is kind of the only bad thing I have to say about T-Train in this match, I think. There's not really anything bad to say up against either of them. Elliot did still claim that he wasn't playing the best and maybe a little bit went a little bit wobbly towards the end, but there was nothing really he could do differently, in my opinion. Maybe, yeah, switching in the Seismitoad towards the end was not the best idea, and Elliot was aware of that at the time, but that's fine. But yeah, it's just one tiny bit of commentary from T-Train's thing. It says Electros doesn't have the best special attack. It's more of a bulky mon. Whilst technically true, it doesn't have the best special attack. Its special attack is 105. It actually has better offensive stats than it does defensive stats. Its defensive stats are 85, 80, 80. Its attack stats are 115 and 105. It is actually more offensive than it is defensive, just because of its nature of having no weaknesses. It is typically run as a bulky pivot. But it does do the damage. It has 105 special attack, which is, when we use things like Garchomp mixed, and that only has 80 special attack. Flamethrower off Electros is more than Flamethrower off, well, Flamethrower / Fire Blast off Electros is more than Flamethrower / Fire Blast off Garchomp. So, and we run that thing mixed and we don't blink an eye about it. But yeah, so Electros does have really good special attack. It's over 100 base power, so people be aware of this fact. Electros is dangerous on the offensive. Oh yeah, and the one thing, actually the main reason why I did check T-Train's side of this was the Donphan switch in, which I did literally just write Donphan switch in on my notes after the. God, just can't catch a break really, because this should have been a little bit more comprehensive, maybe a little bit more comprehensive win for T-Train here, but the Leaf Storm missed and just cannot catch a break at all. I've also got Gumshot miss, which written down. I'm trying to remember where that was. I'm guessing that was towards the Clefable from Donphan, I want to say, at some point. But yeah, I don't think that one mattered too much as what happened later on. But the Leaf Storm miss absolutely mattered, because that allowed the Superior to go down, be taken out. And then the Donphan came in and just immediately died. So I don't really know what happened there. And neither does T-Train. He just says, he said in his commentary, this is the first time I've allowed hacks to get the better of me. And played a little bit of tilt on there, so essentially just sacked the Donphan for absolutely no reason. When it was probably one of the better things. I probably didn't have a lot of health. It probably would have still maybe just gone down to Mega Gross at that point at the range it was at. And it wasn't taking another Giga Drain from Electros from the range it was at, so maybe it didn't have a lot of value left at that point. I don't think it really outsped anything. I don't think it took any attacks from anything that was left. Maybe X-Cloud could have taken one thing from X-Cloud of the range it's at, because it does have 120 defense, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but I think X-Cloud had Thunder Punch, Fighting Coverage, I would assume Return and something else. I don't know what something else is though. So it might have had coverage. If it didn't have Ice Punch or whatever for Donphan, then it might have been able to take a return from the range it was at still, but everything else it probably died to at that range. So Donphan probably wasn't the most useful thing, but it could have been used as a sack rather than just switching in and dying immediately. So it could have been used as a useful sack rather than a pointless sack, basically. And then it kind of became a game of, will Elliot miss enough moves to allow Porygon 2 to do everything? And the answer was yes, he will. In a particularly eventful turn, we had a Hammer Arm miss, and then a Tri-Attack freeze, which then immediately thawed. It's like, oh, sweet Jesus. What a roller coaster that turn / 2 turns were. Yeah, then we essentially had to wait for another Hammer Arm to miss, and then that allowed essentially the X-Cloud to get down. Or that's when he switched the Seismitoad in. Probably, and that's the point Elliot realised he made the mistake in switching the Seismitoad in, because he just allowed the X-Cloud to go down, and then sort of did the shenanigans with Electros versus Porygon 2 there, allowing it to get the Super Fang and waiting for the Super Fang miss, which then of course it did eventually happen as well, allowing the Porygon to take out allowing the Porygon to take that out as well, allowing it to take the Electros out as well, and then Mega Metagross came in to do the damage on Porygon, and then that finished it off eventually. And that because it was only Mega Metagross weakened and very weak X-Cloud left, Manectric could finish it off. If the Seismitoad was still there at that point, instead of the X-Cloud, if it was Megagross and Seismitoad, then Elliot probably won that end bit if he didn't sack off the Seismitoad. If he managed to get Mega Metagross in on the Porygon 2 and killed the Porygon 2 with Mega Metagross, so yeah, if he just sacked off the X-Cloud and then just brought in Mega Metagross, it probably would have been enough at that point. Instead he switched out the weakened X-Cloud into Seismitoad, and then Seismitoad took a ton of damage. And yeah, and then it just died again, I think, straight after that, and essentially just allowed a little bit more freedom for Porygon 2 to keep doing its thing. Whereas if just keeping Seismitoad around for the Scarf Manectric, it probably wouldn't have taken on. I don't know if Manectric had HP Grass, but it wouldn't be able to do HP Grass with Metagross and Seismitoad. Anyway, so yeah, kind of unfortunate. Elliot could have won that after Elliot could have won it after the Leaf Storm miss. Definitely. I don't think the Leaf Storm miss. I don't think even if he hadn't missed the Leaf Storm, I don't think Elliot was out of it entirely at that point anyway. But because it was still 4 months left at that point. Yeah, there'd still be 4v5 at that point, I think. So still anyone's game at that point. But that actually really shoved it in Elliot's favour, and then that one switch essentially into Seismitoad pushed it back into T-Train's favour. It was sort of neither here nor there for a little bit of a while when it was Porygon versus X-Cloud, and then the switch into Seismitoad pushed it into T-Train's favour, provided that a Super Fang was missed at some point, and it did. So, and that essentially sealed it, sadly. It's kind of sad when that happens, when it is a missed move, kind of seals the deal, but especially when it's Super Fang, because I think it's 90% accurate or something like that. It's kind of very accurate in the first place. I know I've missed Super Fangs before, and it's been annoying when that happens, but it is what it is. Great match though, 1-0. Yeah, and there was just no answer to that random Donphan switch in, but it happens to the best of us, and there we are. And I believe that's 3-0 now for Luster City, and yeah, one of the undefeated teams now, I believe. So still one of the 2 undefeated teams left. 3, something like that. There's not many undefeated teams left now. So good job. Moving on is the Minnesota Vikavolt versus Maryland Torterrapins. That's A-Drive and Under the Radar, aka Kelly. Dan, aka A-Drive, and Kelly, aka Under the Radar, respectively. Which ended up as a 1-0 for the Maryland Torterrapins. Now, I don't have a lot of notes for this match, if I'm honest. There wasn't really a lot to say. The early part of the match was very much in Dan's favour. There might be an argument that Kelly didn't play the best first turns, but in my opinion, there wasn't really anything Kelly could do about that opening sort of salvo, as it were. The Willow miss is important in the short term because it allowed Crocodile to deal with the Skarmory. If the Crocodile was burned, then it couldn't do what it needed. It couldn't do what it did with the Skarmory because it would have been worn down too much. But the Willow miss allowed damage on the Megazard, and then that forced the Skarmory switch in, which then allowed Dan to essentially trap it. Not essentially trap it with it wasn't properly trapped, but essentially trapped it with Taunt.
and knockoff, because you can just taunted it, knocked off, did the leftovers, and just kept knocking it off. And by using taunt and knockoff as a combo, it kind of prevented anything from switching in because nothing else wanted to lose its item at that point. So yeah, just sort of doing iron heads, doing knockoffs. Eventually just killed the Skarmory, which meant any rocks and things stayed on the field at that point. Any hazards from Dan's side would have stayed on the field. So it was the Will-O-Wisp was important in the short term, but long term, in terms of long term, Vaporeon and Shaman could have had Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. So in terms of the long term battle, the Will-O-Wisp first term wasn't that important, but in the short term, definitely, because it essentially lost the Skarmory because of it. But in fairness, that Will-O-Wisp was very much cancelled out by the 2 Sea Flare misses from the Shaman, because without those Sea Flare misses, it would have been an entirely different game. Nidoqueen would have been down. There is an argument to be made that should have just gone Earth Power, but should have just gone Earth Power and guaranteed the kill. But the risk was that he could switch out into Bravery still, so. And he could switch into Jellicent, which wouldn't have taken as much damage. But Jellicent wasn't going to switch in on Shaman probably anyway, because then he would just have to switch back out again in the turn after. So, yeah, it would have been the Bravery that switched in, and it is kind of a free. Could have easily been a free switch in if he'd gone for the Earth Power again. So, yeah, and it becomes a little bit 1-for-1 for a bit after those Sea Feather misses, because yeah, Nidoqueen kills the Shaman as a result of the buff, and then something switches in directly after that, and I think killed the Nidoqueen. I don't think I wrote that down. And then Jellicent switches in and kills something. I don't know. Then Jellicent, then Alolan Ninetales versus Jellicent was just a trade-off, and became a trade-off as well. Yeah, Nidoqueen for Shaman, and then Alolan Ninetales for Jellicent. Kind of became 1-for-1 there, just taking 2 things out at the same time on the same things. And then I've put kind of a choke on Dan's part, kind of, just because of what happened. The Z Hype. I do have to mention, of course, Z Hyper Beam and the Hyper Beam in general, but it was Heliolisk versus, I want to say, Necrozma at this point in the match, and Dan believes at this point that Vaporeon has no use at all, is his least useful Mon. Bearing in mind that Infernape was still in, but I think it was weak. Infernape was still alive, but I think it was weakened. Crocodile was still weakened, and Necrozma was about half. Vaporeon was the only thing still at full health. Therefore, Vaporeon was actually the only thing still at a range that could take Bravery on. Therefore, Vaporeon was actually the most useful thing still left on Dan's team. Even though it's weak to Heliolisk, even though it's weak to the Electric, and isn't actually super effective against anything if it doesn't have Ice Beam. Even though it's not super effective against anything that's left, it is actually the most useful thing, because it's the only thing that could take a Brave Bird, basically, or even a return. I don't know if the range that Infernape was at. I don't know if the range the Infernape was at. It could even take a return. I think that's actually what killed it in the end. So the sack would have been Crocodile, because you remove the potential for the Intimidate Defiant thing. Thankfully, like Dan's very experienced. He knows not to bring the Crocodile in on the Bravery anyway, and he avoided that. He did avoid bringing Crocodile in on Bravery, but it was kind of the writing was on the wall at that point anyway. I think so. Yeah, the Crocodile would have been the sack there, not Vaporeon, because then, even with the Hyper Beam taking out Necrozma, which, you know, Hyper Beam was great. But yeah, Hyper Beam takes out Necrozma, then Infernape can take out the Heliolisk, because it's locked into Hyper Beam, and then you've still got a full health Vaporeon versus Bravery, and then you've got a little bit more potential, because you could Skull Burn it maybe. I don't know if it had Ice Beam on the thing at all. I don't know if it had Ice Beam. Yeah, I don't think you had Mach Punch either on Infernape. Having Mach Punch on the Infernape would have been useful as well, because then that could have got a little bit more chip damage on the Bravery before it got killed, and then Vaporeon could have been still at full health and would have had more chance in killing the Bravery than the Crocodile did, obviously. Well, Crocodile or Infernape did. So, you know, it is what it is. You look back and you have hindsight, but I don't know if Vaporeon would have had enough firepower in it to take down the Bravery with the sets that were actually brought, but you know, Skullburn could have potentially allowed it to survive. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the calcs of Bravery versus Vaporeon at that point. If it could have taken less than 50% from one Brave Bird, maybe, I don't know, or in first place, then you would have been fine with just Wish. But if it taken more than 50% of one Brave Bird, which I suspect would be the case, then you would just be relying on Skullburns. But would have had at least a 30% chance to maybe pull it out of the bag rather than 0. So yeah, that's why I put kind of choke, but it wasn't a full choke. And you know, it was a 1-0. It was a really good match, and you know, really good match. There's nothing taken away from the match at all. Nobody really played badly as such. Just that one decision there took it away from Dan. And yeah, basically that's it. Nothing really else to say about that match. It was a really good match, really good watch, and yeah, just that one turn sealed it essentially. And then we move on to the Philadelphia Braveries and Chris Cobain versus Adelaide Umbreons. And it's not Cresselkey this week. It is her assistant coach, Gail Wings. Decided to use her assistant coach this week, and because of illness, I believe. So I am not really going to comment too much on the Adelaide Umbreons plays as such. It was fairly good plays for the most part, actually. Lulling the Zygarde into a false sense of security. Essentially lulling Chris into a false sense of security, allowing him to get up to +6 with Zygarde, and then Destiny Bonding with Gengar. Oh, what fun! But yeah, it was good. Like I always like to I always want to see Zygarde take down Celesteela because it can, and it's great fun to see ground types take down Celesteela, and Zygarde's the only one that can do it pretty much. Because it's amusing, but you know, never happened. And the match was a little bit suicidal towards the start. There was a lot of just, I'll let this die, trade this for that, kill this, kill that, kill this. So a lot of the match was a lot of the early match was a little suicidal, but you know, my only real notes, other than sort of the excellent baiting with allowing the Zygarde to get up to +6, because the further you allow something to set up, the more safe it feels. And it's less likely to predict the Destiny Bond. Even though Gengar coming in is like obvious Destiny Bond a little bit. But yeah, and as Chris said in the post-match as well, maybe Dragon Dance would have been better. Yeah, Dragon Dance would definitely have been better because then Gengar didn't outspeed it. Wouldn't have outsped it. I'm not sure the reason for Coil. It was for the other boost. Was some reason for the other boost, the defensive boost or something. But yeah, Dragon Dance would have been like 9 million times better. In that case, because you would have outsped the Gengar and Destiny Bomb wouldn't have been a thing, and the sweep would have happened. Absolutely. No doubt about it. My only other notes on this match is not a lot else about this match. Like I said, there was a lot of trade-offs happened in this match. I'm just going to quickly just have a look at the kills for this match. Yeah, there's a little bit of trade-offs. Like a lot of things got kills, like Celesteela grabbed a kill, and then like Celesteela, Gengar, Lapras all got kills. It was a 3-0, by the way. It was 3-0 to the Braveries in the end. And Celesteela was autotomized, I believe, which was interesting. Didn't really end up doing a lot because Dugtrio kept coming in. One note I have here, the only note I do have is Celesteela can switch out on Dugtrio. It is a flying type, it's not grounded, it can fly, it can switch out on Dugtrio. Arena Trap does not affect Celesteela. We said this week 1 with the Emolga situation, when there was surprise that the Emolga could switch out. Flying types are not affected by Arena Trap. Like I said, I didn't know what. I haven't actually seen the Galewig side of this. Perhaps I should have watched just to see if he was aware of this or not. But Celesteela could switch out on it because obvious Sucker Punch was obvious, and I think that's what killed the Celesteela in the end. So yeah, obvious Sucker Punch was obvious. So Celesteela could have switched out there, and everything would have been entirely neutral at that point. What you brought back in on Dugtrio there? Don't know. Lapras probably. Because I think they were still alive at that point. So yeah, because yeah. My following note is, Chris found Mega Scissor outspeeding Lapras interesting. I'm not sure why, because Lapras is slower than Mega Scissor, naturally. So yeah, there's absolutely no surprise that Mega Scissor outsped Lapras, because Lapras is just slower than Mega Scissor. Mega Scissor is 75, I believe. Lapras is 60. I'm not 100% certain about Lapras. I think it's 60. But yeah, Mega Scissors 75. There's absolutely no reason why a Scissors well, unless Scissor is 0 speed and there is speed in Lapras, there's no reason for Lapras to be outspeeding you. But yeah, that's actually literally that's about it. Dragon Dance would have been better than Coil, and that's the last of my notes on this match. So a very quick hyper offensive match, kind of. Good fun to watch, and yeah, that's basically it. Apologies for giving you like a lot shorter stick than everyone else, but I'm sure listeners will be pleased with that because it means we can move on a lot quicker. The next match is Miami Dolphins and Kyle versus the Milwaukee Suspect Steve or Magnitude. Just quick note here. Congratulations on your engagement, Steve. Wish you all the best and all that. But the match has been, well, at the time of these notes, I've got the match is postponed, but it might be a forfeit now. I'm not 100% certain. It'd be a forfeit from Steve at this point. I'm not 100% certain. So it might be a 3-0 to Miami Dolphins here, but I'm just going to leave postponed on the graphics for now because I'm not sure if this match is actually still going to happen. There is news coming about certain things, so it's kind of I don't think it's up to me to be announcing this because I don't think that announcement has gone up yet. I'm not certain. So I'm not going to mention it because I'm not 100% certain if that announcement has been done yet, made officially, so I'll just leave that be. So yeah, it's postponed for now. Might be a 3-0 for the Miami Dolphins if Steve decides to take the forfeit here instead. So moving swiftly on is the Colorado Rapidash and Swami versus the Orlando Magikarps and Choice Specs. This is a 5-0 for the Colorado Rapidash. Like I understand, I haven't actually checked the rest of his team. I will just quickly check the rest of the team right now. I apologise for this. What is it? Orlando Magikarp. So all is what I'm looking for. I actually did forget to check the rest of his team right now. Because the opening salvo in the team builder bit of Swami's thing says he has a lot of speed, which is, is true. There is Aerodactyl, there's Miss Majors, there's Sceptile, Pyroar is over 100 as well, Scolopy is over 100, and Garden. That's it. So yeah, it does have 5 things over base 100. However, once you've gone from 100, it immediately goes to 80. Dragonite, Mandibuzz, and Gardevoir are all 80 base speed, and then everything that remains is slow. Magneton, I believe, is low, 50-60ish, and then Snorlax is about 30, and Mega Slowbro, I believe, is like 20-30 as well. So yeah, he does have a lot of speed, and yeah, you do have to count on that speed, but everything else is base 80 or really slow. So Choice Specs' teams like Speed Hitters are a little bit weird with the fact he has like really fast things and a lot of things directly in the middle at 80, and then a bunch of things that are really slow as well. So you're saying he has a lot of speed. True, but not characteristic of his entire team, and he's not going to bring all 5 things over. Well, unlikely to bring all 5 things over base 100 anyway. Hidden Power Ground for the Magneton. No. Well, yes, kind of, but it's on the Weezing. Weezing's only offensive moves are Poison and Fire. Flamethrower is more than enough for Magneton. You don't need Hidden Power Ground for the Magneton. And Magneton's not going to come in, not going to feel safe against the Weezing anyway because of Flamethrower and Fire Blast. That's a good point. Yeah, just get Fire Blast as well, which is enough. I think they got nerfed to 110, but it's still 220 versus 240. It does have the chance to miss, of course, with Fire Blaster. But even Flamethrower is 180 with the the super effectiveness. So it would be 240 Hidden Power Ground versus the 180 Magneton, and they could always run Air Balloon or whatever, or Sugar Berry for the ground type move. But Magneton doesn't really feel that safe against Weezing anyway because of the fire moves that Weezing gets. So wouldn't really matter, and Flamethrower would have been better because then otherwise you do get a little bit more walled by Scolipede. Obviously you can burn the Scolipede, which Scolipede doesn't want to be in against Weezing for that reason as well. But yeah, Flamethrower would have actually hit more things, super effective, than Hidden Power Ground would have, because Hidden Power Ground literally only hits Magneton, super effective. Oh, and Pyro, but Sludge Bomb does more to Pyro anyway. Sludge Wave does more to Pyro than Hidden Power Ground does anyway, so it doesn't really matter there. So yeah, Flamethrower would have been more than enough rather than Hidden Power Ground. You didn't need Hidden Power Ground there. Just my 2 cents on that one. But can I just say that the Rapidash team does have the one ground type that takes Wheezing on. Zygarde is another one now. Now I guess 1,000 Arrows. But yeah, I like the fact that the Rapidash have Excadrill and Wheezing, because Excadrill is basically the only one that does take Wheezing on because of Mold Breaker. So it's kind of cool that he's got pretty much one of only 3 counters now to Wheezing. One of 3 ground counters to Wheezing. Now there's Zygarde 10 and 50%. They both take it on with 1,000 Arrows. But Mold Breaker, kind of cool there. But yeah, putting it on the same side is like having Mamoswine and Bronzong on the same team, having the one thing that counters it on the same team. It's pretty good work there on your drafting front. The momentary Protean Gardevoir, it was terrifying to happen, but ultimately it didn't really do anything. Unlike the sort of sheer force Gardevoir that happened in the PPL at one time. Shout out to Paulie Mac there. But yeah, Trace sheer force and just ran through the opponent's team. Trace Protean here. Sadly didn't really get to do a lot with it. But tracing Protean is terrifying. Because in the end all it did was just use its stab move anyway. And then just take its other typing off briefly, and then it switched out directly afterwards. So I think it only got 1 hit off, and then the Protean really didn't do anything in the end, but it was kind of cool that it happened. Sadly it didn't do anything. A lot of early switches for the Magikarp as Kecleon just stays in for like 6-7 turns. I don't know how long it stayed in for, but Kecleon just stayed in on basically everything as the Magikarp just kept switching and taking damage, so that really didn't help the Magikarps early on. I don't know. This is why I went and checked at this point, because I didn't know what happened and why the Mega Slowbro was the first thing brought in against the T-Tar. Now, just to give, in case you haven't watched the match, just to give a bit of clarification here, the Tyranitar has Rock Polished up on the Snorlax, which gets taken out by the Sandstorm at the end of that turn anyway. So Snorlax does a little bit of chip damage with Facade, and then goes down to the Sandstorm, and then Tyranitar is now +2 speed with Rock Polish. Now, I had to go and check why Gardevoir was the switch in here, not Mega Slowbro, because obviously Rock Polish is +2 speed, Scarf is only +1, which essentially gives Tyranitar an extra, like a double Scarf over anything that is already Scarfed on the opponent's side. So he would need something that would be outside of normal Tyranitar Scarf range to be Scarfed to still outspeed +2 Tyranitar. But sadly, because Aerodactyl is the only thing he brought in that speed range, maybe, because I'm not sure if Tyranitar can, I don't think Scarf Tyranitar can outspeed base 130s. And I don't think Aerodactyl was Scarfed anyway, but it was down at that point, so it didn't really matter. There was nothing that outsped Tyranitar at that point at +2 speed. So I did go and double check. It was simply just not realising that Gardevoir didn't actually outspeed with Scarf until after he brought it in. Yeah, so live and learn. Live and learn a little bit there. Mega Slowbro was absolutely 100% the first switch you should have made there. Even though I don't know what happened there, you missed the Life Orb. So the only advantages of Gardevoir coming in would have been seeing that it was Life Orb and realising that you couldn't actually take a crunch no matter what. But as it happened, you missed the Life Orb anyway, so you were unaware that it could easily take to it. It could easily 2-hit KO you, and went for Carve Mind, which sealed the match basically. Because if you went for Scald and got the Scald Burn, then it's a different ball game entirely. Because then another crunch probably wouldn't have killed. You could have healed off the damage with Slack Off, and then a completely different situation there. But yeah, Mega Slowbro was literally the only thing that could have saved you at that point with a Skull Burn. So Mega Slowbro should have 100% been the first thing switched in. And then of course you would have also had the Skull Burn damage as well, plus the Life Orb damage from Tyranitar itself. Might have put it in range of something else. Might have put it in range of someone else's move with that damage. And it might not even be able to kill with the second crunch anyway, with the burn and the Life Orb. So, well, with the burn basically. And yeah, minor saved you there. Just again, live and learn situation. Not really much else to say. Like I say, the early match was just Kecleon versus everything, and then the last match was Tyranitar versus, and the second half was just Tyranitar killing everything. So yeah, that's basically it for the recap on that match. Only thing I would say do differently is making the Mega Slowbro in first, and you could have Skull Burned it, and that was it. that's literally the only thing that could have been done differently in saving that match. So yeah, that's it. Moving on. The Seattle Star Raptors versus the Waterloo Sourcebooks. That's Gearhart versus Old School Sin, respectively. This is a 4-0 for the Star Raptors here. Excellent early play by Gear, in my opinion. Keeping the pressure on with wishes and good doubles and Volt Switch. Just keeping that pressure on, not really allowing Sin to really get a handle on the match. I put the only real problem is Toxic on Sylveon, because he didn't actually have Heal Bell on it, I think. That's the only real problem that kind of occurred from the early part of that match, was just getting Sylveon Toxic. But, and yeah, that's basically it from the early part of that match. Don't really have a lot much to say about the middle part of this match. A lot of good switching, a lot of good doubles on Seattle Star Raptors part, keep getting Electrode in on the melodic switches. Every time Sin brought in melodic, Gear just doubled straight into the Electrode every single time. For some reason, didn't really pick up on that, didn't really decide to counter that by bringing in something else instead of melodic, when every single time he's just doubling into Electrode. But, whatever. Kind of, like Gear kind of slightly bodged the Sylveon death to the gunk shot. Couldn't really do much else at that point. He just kind of got himself in a situation where he was in range for the Ambipom gunk shot, and switching out really wouldn't have helped him, so Sylveon had to go down there, and then that lost his wish thing, wish passive, which, didn't really need for the rest of the match, so as it turned out, didn't really matter too much in the long term, but in the short term, didn't really matter. Yep, and then there's the Outrage crit. The Outrage crit probably definitely mattered, because Melodic was fairly high health and burned, so had the Marvel Scale, I think, for this one. Marvel Scale, so had the Marvel Scale boost. The crit definitely mattered there. Outrage crit definitely mattered and definitely turned the match entirely. It was looking to be like a really, really long match up until that point. I think with the way it was going with the pressure, I think it was still in Gear's favour, and then the crit just sort of essentially sealed it. My only criticism I have is switching out Como O off the Chandelure. Now, there is one reason to switch out Como O off the Chandelure, and that's if it goes for the Psychic, because it does get Psychic as coverage, as we saw last week, in fact. But there's no reason to switch out from a Shadow Ball, because you are bulletproof. Shadow Ball is one of the moves that is countered by bulletproof. I hope, anyway, in saying this. Shadow Ball is countered by bulletproof, so there's absolutely no reason to switch out on Chandelure if you're predicting the Shadow Ball. There's no reason to switch out if you're predicting the Flamethrower either, of course, because it resists the Flamethrower, so you could have easily just taken that Chandelure out on that turn. But of course you were still fighting the confusion at that time, so I don't really blame switching out entirely. I just want to make sure that, aware of the fact that bulletproof did counter Chandelure there a little bit outside of any potential psychics. So yeah, there's no real reason to worry about Shadow Ball there, because you're immune to it. Sin, essentially after that crit, all Gear needed to do is get Mamoswine in for free, and then it killed everything else. Literally everything got killed. Literally everything else got killed. There was a little bit of salt from the discharge paralysis. I'm not sure if Sin is aware that discharge paralysis is 30%, not 10%. So it wasn't that surprising it happened, but it still happened. So it's the same as a skull burn basically. So don't be really that surprised when a discharge. Don't be that surprised when a discharge paralysis happened. Basically, is my only thing to say there. But yeah, soon as that melodic went down, all Gearhart needed to do was get Mamoswine in for free, and then it killed everything else because it outspeeds Tapu Bulu anyway. But so the paralysis didn't really matter as it happened. But in terms of how the match ended. So yeah, it just killed Tapu Bulu with normal ice move, killed Yanmega with Ice Shard, because after the rocks, more than enough. Chandelure was at 8 health at that point, so once it switched back in, so it died to Ice Shard as well. What else was left at that point? Ambipom died to Ice Shard at the range he was at as well, and Magnezone obviously goes down to the Earthquake because it's slower. So literally everything else at that point, there was nothing Sin could do at that point. He did switch out the Magna Zone into something else, But he switched that into the Omega, predicting the Earthquake. But it didn't matter anyway because it just gets Ice Shard the next turn. So there's literally nothing Sin could do at that point. Once Mammoth was in against the remaining 5 mons, there was nothing that could be done because everything was at the range for Ice Shard or just generally slower and weak to the stab moves. Yeah, nothing you could do. Nothing you could do at that point. On Sin's side, I'm pleased to see Sin doing more calking compared to previous weeks. So that's a lot. Very nice to see that. Bit of an improvement there, in my opinion. There was still a little bit of speed talk at the start. A little bit unsure about speeds at the start, whether or not Electrode outspeeds something, or for way they was talking in the beginning, I thought that Ambipom was scarfed because you're saying that Ambipom outsped Electrode or something. I'm not 100% certain. No, Electrode is like base 150 is one of the fastest things in the game. Nothing outspeeds it unless you put something already fairly fast as a Scarfer, which would have actually really basically have to be an Ambipom. I'm not sure Chandler base 80 is enough to outspeed 150s. Might be just. But yeah, did miss the light screen being removed by the defog. Defog removing the light screen. Sin did miss that. He did talk about being able to take a hit because light screen was still up. It wasn't. It didn't matter because he wasn't attacked anyway. He just I don't think a Silverwing actually ever went for an offensive move during the entire match. Did say Shandy outspeeds Komo-O. It doesn't. Shandy is base 80. Komo-O is 85. Despite Yanmar, this is the other thing. Despite Yanmar being killed by Ice Shard literally the turn before, was praying that the 8 HP, he only had 8 hit points left, literally just 8. The 8 HP Chandler would break a speed tie. He's not going for a normal move at that point. You have 8 hit points. He's clicking Ice Shard there. There's literally nothing that could be done. It's nice that you still had a little bit of hope there, but yeah, it wasn't going to happen. It was clicking Ice Shard there, sadly. Sorry. The match was sealed the second he got Mammothswine in after Milotic had gone down, basically. Generally a bit more of an improvement. I think just a little bit more prediction game on Sin's part, and sort of maybe reacting to the fact that every time it was Marak. I think Marak versus something. Every single time. Marak versus something. Every single time Marak came in, Sin switched in Melodic, and at the same time, Gear would immediately double out on the Marak into Electrode, so it was Electrode versus Melodic every single time. So it would have been the only thing would have been done to just realise that this is keep happening and not go into Melodic as he goes into Electrode. That's the only thing that could have been done. As it happened, I couldn't really see much for the Electrode on Sin's team. He didn't really bring anything to take it on too much. I mean, Electrode isn't the strongest thing, so it does go down to just very powerful hits. So like Tapu Bulu would have been the best thing for it, really. But then he could have just Volt Switched on him because it's slower than it. Not bringing anything faster than Electrode was a little bit of a problem as well there. But other than that, it wasn't really that much bad play on either. It wasn't really bad play on either side, really. Just a little bit more awareness on Sin's side, maybe would have had him a little bit more in the match. But as soon as that crit happened, nothing could have been done. It was essentially a sealed match once the crit on the Melodic happened. So unfortunate there, but it's what it is. Next up, we have the Free State Torracats and Duncan versus the Seattle Sea Kings. Now, at this point, I believe it's going down as a forfeit win for Jodor. Duncan takes the forfeit here. I believe that he got an early copy or something of Breath of the Wild and had to do a lot of playing of that for reasons, and he kind of got absorbed by that. So he didn't really have a lot of time to do the Pokemon side of things. But because of the PAX thing, because of the week off of PAX, I'm not sure if they're now rescheduling and playing this match. But for now, as far as I'm aware, it is a 3-0 win for Jodor as a forfeit win. So all I have to say about that match, and we can move on to the penultimate. Still a couple more to go. Crikey. Next one is the Rochester Rhydons versus the New York Lynx. That's Big Pub Gaming and Papacy, respectively. This ended up a 2-0 win for the Rhydons. we have the very high offensive opening. There's not a lot wrong with the opening. Like, all the right plays are being made in the opening of this match. It just felt really wasteful because there was so much damage being done in like the first 5-10 turns of this match. It just felt really wasteful, the amount of damage being done, but there's actually nothing really wrong with the plays as such. The mind games with the Klefki were kind of fun. You kind of, does he have Magic Code? Does he not have Magic Code? Because Pum brought block for Klefki to trap it in, and it was sort of just like, no, using normal move, used a couple of normal moves, trying to see if you're scouting for the Magico, and then the one turn he did use block, Klefki used Magico, and it's like, damn it! It was quite fun to watch, but yeah, really unfortunate at that point. Sub-Zero Slammer for the Zapdos. I'm trying to remember what had it now. Oh yeah, Tornadus Eye had it. Tornadus Eye had the Sub-Zero Slammer for that. Great work there. Great use of sort of the sort of unobvious counter Z move there. That's how Z moves really should be. Like how the Z moves work is the sort of the unobvious Z moves, like the Heliolisk Hyper Beam Z move. Yeah, that was unobvious. The Z Aquatail wasn't obvious. Except the fact he did actually see the fact he was a Z mover with the knockoff before that. We didn't know which one. Yeah, Tornadus here. Didn't see that one coming either. And then Zapdos is down. Zapdos is one of probably the bigger problems on... Well, Zapdos is one of the bigger problems on any team. So getting rid of Zapdos is fantastic, especially when it's the Tornadus doing it. Oh yeah. This is one match I probably should have watched the other side for, because it kind of felt like Papa C didn't know the amount of coverage that Tornadus gets. Because I think he just sort of brought in... I'm trying to think what it was. He brought in Klefki, and then I just died to... Was it Klefki? He brought in something. I can't remember the two things he brought in were now. He definitely brought in Suicune, and that died to Grass Knot. And then he brought in something else, and I think something else died to the Tornadus coverage as well. Just trying to remember what it was, though. Hang on, let me just have a quick check what the kills were. This is where having a co-host helps them. No, Tornadus only got 2 kills. So yeah, it killed the Zapdos, and then it killed Suicune with Grass Knot immediately the turn after, I think. So I think it might have just been a case of Papa not being aware of coverage for Tornadus. So yeah, and then oh my god, this was probably one of the better plays of the entire week. In fact, probably the entire season so far, in my opinion. This was excellent play on the Rhydon's part. He allowed something to stay alive. I'm trying to remember what it was. He kind of made sure that he allowed one of his own mons to go down, so that Embor, I think he allowed Embor to go down against something by not doing enough damage against the opponent, so that he could come in and then set up webs for free. And that was brilliant work. Absolutely brilliant work. He kept something alive, so he couldn't do it. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was entirely, but he kept something alive so that he could then bring Galvantula in and set up webs without fear of them being bounced back or anything like that. So he could guarantee the webs would be up, and therefore. It wasn't the Embor then. It must have been the Fortress or something like that. He allowed something to go down anyway. Or Spiritomb. He allowed something to go down. I think it was the Spiritomb actually. I think it was the Fortress that had block, maybe. And then it was the Spiritomb that he kind of prevented Spiritomb from taking the kill on something. So then he could set up the webs with Galvantula. And that was brilliant work. Brilliant work, because Mega Alakazam is still around. As soon as Mega Alakazam comes in, then he does get the webs, and it is outsped by Galvantula and Kyurem Black at that point. Yeah. However, Embor at that point, like Embor versus Mega Alakazam, your play is still Sucker Punch. It doesn't matter if he could disable you, because you have 8 Sucker Punches still, so you just keep kicking Sucker Punch until Mega Alakazam actually hits something. You goes for an offensive move. If he doesn't use the offensive move in 8 turns, then it doesn't matter, because you still have those 2 mons that outsped Mega Alakazam at that point anyway. You had Kyra Black and Galvantula in the back. Both of them outsped Mega Alakazam anyway at that point after the webs. So you just still click Sucker Punch. If Mega Alakazam attacks it in any of those remaining 8 turns, it dies. Simple as that. You didn't need to sack Emboll there at all. Doesn't matter if he could use disable. Doesn't matter at all. You still had 2 mons. You still ended with the 2-0 anyway. So you could have had a 3-0 there. The 2-0 was guaranteed at that point because no matter what you brought in the end there, either Kyra Black or Galvantula, both of them outsped Mega Alakazam at that point, I think, because of webs. Both of them could kill the Mega Alakazam. It was a guaranteed 2-0 at that point anyway. So you could have just gone for the 3-0 and just played mind games with the Sucker Punch with Mega Alakazam. And got the 3-0. And he probably would have just gone for the offensive move just in case you did switch there, because there was no real reason for him to not try and make that 2-0. That's it for that match. Really good match. Great usage of webs. Fantastic usage of webs. Like week one, we said that you didn't need, you kind of over prioritized webs. Like we weren't one of the. I don't think we were one of the people that said you overuse webs, but you over prioritize webs in that match. They weren't really necessary in our opinion. But yeah, last week you didn't bring them at all, I don't think, or didn't use them at all anyway. And then this week they were done to perfection. So bravo there. Good win for Pum there. And we get to move on to the Hampshire Haunters and Goffey's Enigma versus Temporary Lucrace and Exception. This was the most painful match I've ever watched in my life, and I have watched a few matches. Quite a lot of matches in my lifetime. I'm probably a little bit of exaggeration there. Not painful in terms of bad plays, just painful in terms of, dear God, why did you bring Stockpile Araquanid? That was just so annoying to watch. Like I hate Stall, to be honest, as a thing. Stall to watch and Stall to play against is just the most annoying thing in the universe, in my opinion. But in the Pokemon universe, anyway. Yeah, and that basically he was preying on critting the +3/+3 stockpiled Araquanid with a Stone Edge from Volcanion, I believe, at that point, and then praying that he gets the crit with that so he can do massive damage to maybe even kill it, frankly, with the Stone Edge crit. And then eventually he just switches out Araquanid. On the one turn that Stone Edge actually crits. I was like, no, damn it. Because he switched out and the Stone Edge happened and it hit and then it crit the mon that switched in. I forgot what switched in. Probably something like Ferrothorn, no, Hitmontop. I think it might have been Hitmontop or something like that. And then it's like, damn. Yeah, that was just an absolute bastard set on the Araquanid. The stockpile Aqua Ring. Something else. Did it have Infestation? It should have had Infestation if it didn't. Toxic. Toxic was on there. Absolute bastard set. Liquidation, yeah, so it didn't have Infestation. Yeah, and then my point here is, let me see which way around this is. What had Moonblast? He stayed. Oh yeah. I can't remember what was in at that point, what he was against, but Robatiste used Moonblast at one point in this match. The first Moonblast did significantly less. I don't want to say significantly less, but obviously less than 50%. It did about 45-ish. Enough that it, like a min roll, max roll might be 55. Maybe enough that a min max might be just enough. But it did obviously less than 50% because the opposing Pokemon was still in the green, still just a little bit above the yellow region. You should not be surprised that he lived the next Moonblast. You did less than 50%. Oh, I put it here. Actually, I didn't read my entire notes there. I'm being blinded. The only way the next one kills is if that was the absolute minest of min rolls on the Porygon. It was against the Porygon Z. So yeah, it did about 45, 46, 7 maybe-ish, maybe slightly closer to 50%. But the point is, it did less than 50%. The second it does less than 50%, the second it does less than 50%, you run the calc, see if that was an absolute min roll. If it's not an absolute min roll, if it's anything other than an absolute min roll, you do not chance the second Moonblast. It's not going to kill it. So yeah, fine. You lost the Robatiste because of that. I think. So yeah, kind of. I don't know what happened there. I don't know. Maybe you just got so angry about the stockpile of Araquanid you weren't thinking straight at that point. Because as soon as one move does less than 50% and you see that it absolutely cannot kill on the next one, well, or should see that it probably won't kill on the next one, you don't chance that it won't kill on the next one. You switch out and save your Wish Passer, which is the only way of keeping the rest of your team with health, basically, against the bastard Araquanid and various other Stally mons that he brought this week. There was commentary that said, we've got to hit it with as much rock and ground moves as we can get. This was in regards to Araquanid. Ground is not super effective against Araquanid. Araquanid, in fact, resists ground. It is only rock moves in that sentence that are super effective. Araquanid is only weak to flying, electric, and rock, I believe. So yeah, there we go. Next up, I wrote this in capitals. So I thought this was a bad thing for a second there. Deadweight is a fantastic, Delmise nickname. I don't know why Delmise has so many fantastic nicknames, but it seems to have like a good handful of fantastic nicknames, and it makes it very difficult for me to name them in the future. What I'm trying to work out what was here actually. Shadow Claw. So I'm guessing this was Delmise. Delmise against something. I didn't write what it was up against, actually, I'm afraid here. But for some reason, Delmise kept clicking. You kept clicking Earthquake on Delmise and then because you clicked Earthquake, the opponent mon lived on 1, 2, 3 health, something really low health. It might be in the Ferrothorn at this point, actually. Yeah, because it was neutral. It sort of survived on just a few health. And then you're like, damn, the Earthquake didn't kill. Shadow Claw does more. Because of Stab, Shadow Claw does more than Earthquake. It's 105 base power compared to 100 base power. If you click Shadow Claw, that would have been dead. So, live and learn that. In regards to Araquanid, I've never seen this so bulky. Araquanid is always damn bulky. That's its thing. That's why it exists. It's stupidly bulky and it hits really hard on the water moves because of its ability. It doesn't really hit that too hard on the other moves. It doesn't have the best offensive stats, but because of its ability, it does essentially have huge power on water moves. So it kind of has that thing with the water moves, but other moves doesn't really matter. But yeah, Araquanid is always bulky. Why did you Moonblast the Ferrothorn? Just wish and get out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but Protect Stalling is just horrendous to watch. And I think it was fairly late on the match, so it might have been even playing for timer. Whilst you weren't actually stalling for time as such, you weren't wasting the time. I kind of feel like Protect Stalling for time is a little bit. It's viable. It just feels a little bit scummy. It's not inherently wrong, like just wearing down the timer is deliberately, but Protect Stalling is just sort of the one level below that. It's acceptable. We don't really frown upon it as such in the same way that we would frown upon like burning the 90 seconds every turn, but it's still a little bit scummy in my opinion. But it was kind of your only play at that point anyway. Ended up a 3-0 win for the Haunters anyway, so the 50% Moonblast thing didn't end up being a problem. The not using Shadow Claw over Earthquake didn't end up being a problem. It was still a 3-0 win for the Haunters, but just in future it could have been a slightly bigger, slightly easier win because of that. But never mind, we get to move on to the final match of the week, which you're pleased to hear is the Pittsburgh Pichus, and Numb Nexus versus the San Diego Charizards and Yuvok. And yeah, as commenters have pointed out in the comment section of the Numb Nexus vid here, you can't really disguise Zoroark as Tapu Lele because Zoroark doesn't set up the terrain. Same reason you can't disguise Zoroark as any sort of weather setter either. Same kind of situation. Because it announces the fact that you didn't set up terrain announces the fact you are not Tapu Lele. As it happens, because it's a Wi-Fi battle anyway these days, because the Wi-Fi battle tells you the opponent's typing, it doesn't matter anyway because you could just see the second it says Tapu Lele Dark. It's like, it's Zoroark anyway.
But yeah, that's a public service announcement. Zoroark is now useless in Wi-Fi. Well, not useless, but Zoroark's ability is now useless in Wi-Fi because it just tells you immediately. Just opponent's Pokemon dark. Oh, it's not the opponent. It's not Machamp. It's not Tapu Lele. It's not Tangrowth. Whatever. It's the dark type. It's Zoroark. It just tells you these days. And plus, I think the moves still say if they're super effective or not against it. So it is what it is. There was a little bit of surprise that Volcarona got the Fiery Dance boost. It's 50%. It's a 50-50 chance. It's not surprising at all. Also, not bringing Assault Vest Tangrowth when the opponent has Rotom Cut and Volcarona is a little bit weird because Assault Vest Tangrowth just straight up walls Rotom Cut, and Assault Vest Tangrowth can at least take a hit from Volcarona, I believe. And then you had a Rock move, which would have killed the Volcarona. If you were Assault Vest Tangrowth, then that would have killed the Volcarona. But, you know, what happens, happens. I didn't actually put the score of this match. Hang on one second, let's double check. I believe it was a 3-0 for Numnexus and the Pittsburgh Pichus. So it ended up being a 3-0 as well there. Partially because of what happened following on. Partially because of what happened in the middle of the match. I find it quite funny because Nexus was calling the hacks every single turn. He's like, oh, I'll get the body slam power here. Yep, got the body slam power. It is 30%, so that's not too surprising. And then and I'll get the flamethrower burn here. Got the flamethrower burn there. This is like, oh, damn it. And then there's Tapu Lele. It was Scarf Lele. Scarf Lele just killed everything that remained. Basically, it was a little bit attritional early match. Volcarona destroyed the Tangrowth because it wasn't Assault Vest. A couple of things got sacked. Licky Licky did a bunch of things, got the power. I'm not sure if Licky Licky had the flamethrower because I do think Licky Licky does have flamethrower. It might have been the Nidoking that got the flamethrower burn. Not sure which one it was. I don't think Scizor actually appeared in the entirety of the match. What was quite amusing for this match is that all 6 kills were made by made by what looked like Tapu Lele. Because Zoroark got 1 kill disguised as Tapu Lele, and Tapu Lele got the remaining 5. So everything that got the kill was in the guise of Tapu Lele, which is kind of amusing fun fact to have there. But yeah, as soon as it got to the point where everything was in range of Tapu Lele being scarfed, nothing could have been done. I think it was the Doublade that got burnt, wasn't it? Was it the Doublade that got burnt? I can't remember what it was. Something got burnt. I can't remember what it was that got burnt. That was crucial, really. Might have been the Doublade. It kind of just stopped it from doing things. But I should have written down what they were. I think it was the Volcarona that got paralysed, and then the Doublade that got burned, I think. Heracross was still a little bit scary, but Tapu Lele outspeeds it with the Scarf, I think, so it didn't really matter. So, yeah, there we are. Didn't have the repeat of the Persimmon palaver, and stayed in with Tapu Lele and just destroyed everything. So, yeah, Tapu Lele doing its destructive things and showing why it is not allowed in all the other leagues that do not allow S-tier stuff. So there we go. That's it for this week. One should be back next time. Obviously, the next recap will be in about 2 weeks' time because there's a week off for packs because so many of the coaches are off for packs. They decided to move. A lot of the coaches did have just bye weeks for week 4, but the decision was made there was enough coaches for packs that go into packs that they just moved that entire week's worth of matches to the end of the schedule. So that now will be what was week 4 will now be week 13, and then every other week. And then we'll just resume with our week 5 match. What would be the week 5 match schedule on week 5, as if we'd had week 4 as normal. But week 4 is now at the end of the schedule now. So all those bye weeks are now at the end of the schedule, basically as well. So yeah, that's it. That's it for me. This is week 3. In terms of league leaders and kills and things, Tapu Lele got 5 this week. Tyranitar got 5 this week. I think Tyranitar had a couple of kills previously, so that might be in the running as well. Mega Scizor got a couple of kills to add to his previous haul of 5 in week 1, so that's going to be near the top. Mamoswine got 5 as well, so that's got 6 kills in total. Yeah, so at the top of the leaderboard, we'll have things like Tyranitar, Mamoswine. Mega Scizzor's definitely got 7 at this point. Tyranitar might have 7, might have 6. Mamoswine's got 6, and there might be a few other things in it there and about. I can't see the actual list at this point. So
those are things that are running the kill MVP right now, so they're the ones to keep an eye on if you're... I don't think that we don't have a fantasy series for kills here, sadly, but if you're doing like a personal fantasy league, they're the things that are doing the top of the league in terms of kills, so they're the kill leaders at this point. So that's it for now, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time with hopefully Juan again. Yeah, like I said, it was just me this week because with the schedules clashing and not having time to record with Juan, and my internet service provider deciding today was the best day to do maintenance, and this being recorded whilst I'm offline. I didn't know when I'd be back online to record this with someone, so I didn't want to mess people around. It's been just me this week, so hopefully it hasn't been too bad for those people who like to have more Juan in the recaps. So yeah, sorry, 100% me this week. Will be about to 50-50, me and Juan, in what is now week 4, but is actually the week 4 scheduled matches, week 5 scheduled matches, but is now week 4 in 2 weeks' time. So we'll see you again then, but for now, I've been AmazingChi. You've been amazing too. I'll do my own intro this time. Ta-ra!